Hey guys, I'm Jessie, and today I'm doing a very delayed November and December reading wrap up. Both of those months were insanely busy. I did not do a November wrap up because I only read like a little bit, and then we had the holidays, and then December came, and then we had the holidays, and then the kids were out of school, and it was just super busy, so I like wasn't able to do a full reading wrap up. And now I'm just combining November, December. We're going to talk about all the books, which honestly, still not that much. I still didn't read that many books between 2 whole months. Like, I read more in the beginning part of the year. As the holidays, man, they're busy. Especially as a parent, they're crazy. So, I didn't read a whole lot. But I want to talk about what I did read. I have to go back to my Goodreads because I kind of forgot like when I read stuff. Because stuff starts to like jumble together in my head. So I'm like, I have to look up, when did I finish that book? The first book that I finished in the month of November was When Night Breaks by Janelle Angelis. This is the second book in the Where Dreams Descend duology. I think it's called House of Cards. And I really enjoyed it. I did like book 1 better, but I think that this one really wrapped up the series really well in a really nice little duology bow. And you can definitely see, it's a very life goes on type ending, but it is pretty wrapped up, which I think is fine for YA. It was really good. Again, the first book, one of my absolute favorites. So like this one had a lot to live up to. So if I'm not like comparing them too harshly, then this is really good. I gave it 4 stars. I gave the other one 5 stars. I really liked it, and I like these really pretty Alcrete editions, so I have the 2 matching editions of this one, but it was a really, really good book, and I like this series as a whole, so I do recommend this one. Then also in November, I finished The Killing Moon by N.K. Jemisin. I gave this one 4 stars. Not my favorite Jemisin. That still belongs to the 5th season, but this one was really, really good. This one I feel like is more typical fantasy than the 5th season, but still has her very unique writing style and world building. We are following a few different characters. We are following 2 gatherers and then 1 person who's like actually a foreigner. And the gatherers, basically their job is to kill people in their sleep and like take their dreams, is what I gathered of it. And it was really interesting. And then this foreigner is like a emissary, and they end up having to work together even though they don't trust each other to try to like prevent this war. And it was really, really well done. I liked this a lot. It did take me a bit of time to get through it, just probably because it was the holidays and I was busy and like I couldn't sit down and just like read. But this is the first book in a duology. I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited to read the second one, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Not in November, so this is going back out of order. But I did start The Shadowed Sun, which is the second book in the Dreamblood duology. First book being The Killing Moon by N.K. Jemisin. I haven't gotten very far, probably like 25% of the way in. So far, so good. We are following different characters in this book. It takes place a decent amount after this. So we're following new characters. Some we've seen in the first book, but like never really got characterization. They were just like in like 1 or 2 scenes, and they were background characters, and they were very young, and now we've got them again. And we do get some of the like original characters, but they are more background in this book so far. So I'm really enjoying that. I kind of like when books do that, when it's like we take the first book and it can kind of be its own standalone arc, but then we like 10 years later it, and we follow different characters, but we still see the new, like the people from the original. So I really do like how that's going. So we'll see. Then speaking of books where we're following new characters in the same series all these years later, I read Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. This is the second book in the Band series. I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. The ending had me bawling, right? So I read it, and then we had an interview. Me and my friend Kate and my friend Andrew all had an interview with Nicholas Eames, and I really, really enjoyed it. He was such a nice guy, y'all. I'm very excited for book 3 too, which hopefully we'll get at some point soon, because man, I know we're following, again, new characters in that. So in this, I think it takes place 6 years after Kings of the Wild, and we are following Rose, who is the daughter of Golden Gabe from the first book, the one that they went to save. That's who we're following. We're following her and her band. What I really loved is that our main POV character is not Rose. It is Tam, and Tam is their bard. So we are actually getting like a really different POV than I feel like we normally get in fantasy books. We're following the bard as she watches kind of from the sidelines and sees all these like epic battles and what's going on with the band, and she is a member of the band, but she's supposed to be just the bard. So it's really, really cool how they do that. Again, we have a lot of funny moments in this, a lot of musical references, which I absolutely adore. But then I feel like this book does have a slightly darker and more serious undertone than Kings of the Wild did. There is a lot of heartbreaking moments. There were a lot of things that made me cry. The very end made me cry. I also love that Rose is a mom, and we don't really get a lot of her as a mother, but I really appreciated what they did with her maternal characterization in this book. It is small, but very important part of her character, so I really, really liked that. And I'm excited to read more of the books in the band series. Book 3 at some point. I don't care how long it takes. I will wait for Nicholas Eames' perfection on that. Then I read Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. This is a standalone fantasy, and it's kind of like a contemporary romance in a slightly fantastical setting, if that makes sense. If you've read House in the Cerulean Sea, you will kind of know how the feel of Under the Whispering Door is. It's very, very similar in where it feels like it is our world, but it is just slightly magical. And we are following this man who is a high-powered attorney, and he dies. His name is Wallace, and Wallace dies in the very beginning. So we are following him actually in his afterlife before crossing over. And it's really a really sweet, just like found family and love story. And if you like just a really sweet, wholesome, like good time, then I recommend picking this one up. It is not like a fast-paced action-y plot. It's not like gonna keep you on the edge of your seat. It's just sweet and wholesome, and I absolutely loved it. There were so many good moments, funny moments, moments that made me cry. I read this on an airplane and cried in public. It was a thing. I have a full review if you want to check it out. Might help you make up your mind on if you want to read Under the Whispering Door, so you can check out my reviews playlist if you want to see that. Then I read All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. This is the first book in a fantasy series. I'm not sure if it's going to be a trilogy, a duology. I had the NetGalley arc, and I really ended up enjoying this. It is YA, but it's older YA, I would say. It gives me some Hunger Games vibes. So we're following these like 7 kids called the Slaughter 7, and they are from these like really powerful families, and they're like really set away in this town, and every generation there is this like bloody battle where one representative of each family, each 7 families, so the Slaughter 7, as teenagers are sent in to like fight each other to the death under a blood red moon. And whoever comes out victorious ends up being the leading family for that generation, and they control all the magic. And it's been very, very secretive up until now, but somebody somewhere published a tell-all book, and now there are like paparazzi there, and there's like interested tourists, and we are coming to this blood red moon, and we are following these kids as they're dealing with it and going in to this tournament where they have to like literally kill each other. So yes, it gives me some Hunger Games vibes with the kids having to kill each other, but it's got magic, so I don't know. After reading it a little bit more, like it doesn't really give you Hunger Games vibes, but I feel like if you liked the Hunger Games and that aspect of it, you will enjoy it. I ended up really enjoying it because literally none of these kids are good, but none of them are like strictly evil either. They're just kind of like anti-heroes doing what they have to do to survive, and they're gonna backstab, and they're gonna have like weird moral conundrums where they're like, I want to do this, but I need to do that. And, you know, one of the girls is trying to figure out how to break the tournament so like nobody has to kill again. And, you know, they're kind of allying, but they know that their alliances will eventually break as they have to kill each other. It's great. I actually really enjoyed this, so I would say pick it up. Then I read my most disappointing book of the 2 months, and that is Kill the Queen by Jennifer Estep. And this wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. I'm actually having a live show with Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany later on tonight, because this was our Shelf Space book club pick, and I was the host, she was my co-host, so we're going to be doing that. That'll already be out by the time this wrap up is up. But I gave it 3 stars. It might be a 2.5. I have no desire to read the rest of the series. It's not bad, but it's not good. Like, it was supposed to be an adult fantasy, and it felt very YA, and sometimes I like that in my adult fantasy, and I feel like it could be a good crossover from people reading adult to people reading YA. And I do think that this would be a good one for people that read mostly YA and want to start reading more adult fantasy. But it was kind of a lot of conveniences. Like, there were a lot of plot conveniences that helped our girl survive. So we're following this girl who is like 17th in line to the throne or something. Her family was murdered and she's living in the palace, and her cousin, who is second in line for the throne, ends up slaughtering the whole family. She's one of the only ones, like the only person that gets away. So she goes and she hides and joins a gladiator troupe, and they become kind of like her found family, which I did enjoy that aspect of it. But then she kind of has to go back and she has to, kill the queen. So I did enjoy a lot of this book. I thought the gladiator thing was really interesting, but we didn't get enough of it. I think it was like really hyped up as like she trains and becomes a gladiator, and I don't think we got enough of that. I think the fact that it only takes place within 6 months, so between the murder and the time that she has to go back and kill her cousin, it takes 6 months. And I wish it would have been years. I wish it would have like happened when she was younger, and then she joins this troupe and it takes years to get there so she can train and stuff like that. But I feel like her training went really fast, and it was kind of undeserved, because I think while she's good at things, she was too good almost, and there were some like real plot conveniences. The romance was alright. Like, it was just kind of there and really predictable. But like I said, I didn't hate this, but I don't really want to read the rest of it, like the rest of the series. Like, it was just okay. And I don't really have time to read a just okay book. But a lot of people really like it, so there's that. And then my favorite book. Technically, this book was finished on January 1st. But that's only because it was like the last like 20 pages. So we're counting it here. And that is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I read this whole chunk. I think it took me 2 months, which is like ridiculous. And now I'm trying to read Rhythm of War in like 2 weeks. So we'll see. I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. This is my favorite book that I've read in the past 2 months. It was just so good. I love it. I love the Sanderlanche. I love everything about it. I love the reveals. There were parts that made me cry. The ending of it, oh my god. Like, I loved getting Dalinar's backstory in this. And yo, if we'd have met Dalinar, like, young Dalinar, before we met old Dalinar, like, we would have not liked him. But I loved seeing his character arc. He probably has one of the better character arcs now that I know his backstory. And y'all will be happy to hear my opinions on Adeline, whatever, have warmed after this book. While he is still not my favorite and I still take some issues with him, my feelings towards Adeline warmed significantly after reading Oathbringer. In Way of Kings, I really hated him. In Words of Radiance, I really hated him. And till the very end, when he did some stuff that I was like, yeah! But in this book, he started getting better as a person. And I don't know, I just liked him better in this book, right? Like, I guess I understood him a little better. But still not my favorite. That honor goes to Kaladin, because I love me some Kaladin. But this book was so good. If you like the Stormlight Archives, of course read it. Like, it's book 3. Read the Stormlight Archives if you haven't, if you like that kind of stuff. I cannot describe to you what the Stormlight Archives is about because I don't even know. Like, I don't know where to begin talking about it. But it was a lot of fun, and again, my favorite book of the past 2 months. Alright, well, that is all the books that I read in November and December, and then, you know, finished on the 1st of January with Oathbringer, but, you know, whatever. We're just gonna say December. But yeah, it was a great time. I really enjoyed my reading, even though I didn't read a whole lot. I read, you know, one that was pretty disappointing, but then I read a bunch that I really enjoyed. So that is what it is. That was my reading 2 months. And let me know what you guys think of any of these books, or if you've read them, if you want to read them. All of Us Villains is a new release, so that one I recommend highly, as well as Under the Whispering Door, and of course the Stormlight Archives. Well, let me know what you think of any of these and what you read the past 2 months. What was your favorite of the past 2 months? Alright, well, thank you guys for hanging out with me. My name's Jessie, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!